So that was me giving people a fish, and that fish could feed you for the day. But this year I'm taking more of an attitude of teaching you how to fish, and hopefully that'll take you even further. And then I don't know if you realize that practice is in the name of the title. So tonight there will be opportunities to practice some of these ideas that I'm talking about. So where does my insight come from? Well, my insight comes from, I'm pretty good at noticing stuff in my life, what happens in my life and what doesn't happen in my life. And I started to notice patterns of those happenings. And then as the further I went on, I discovered even more and more patterns. And eventually I got to the point where I would see other people and I'd go, I know that pattern because I've lived it. And I realized that these patterns are not only specific to me, but they're pretty much common throughout society. I've also looked at those patterns and I go, well, is there a way that we can change these patterns and get it so these patterns aren't so much of a trouble? And this talk kind of addresses some of those areas. So the question is, what is support? And I define support as an action that assists someone in the progress through their journey. So maybe that's giving someone a $5 bill so they have gas to get home. Or maybe it's being with someone who their parent has recently passed and being present for them so they have someone to turn to. Or even more is walking a journey through depression. Some of my biggest heroes are Joe and Janie. Janie had 6 years of depression, and Joe was there for her the entire time. And not to say it was always easy, but that support was there, and that made all the difference in the world. So I wanted to take a look at support as a language. There's people throughout the world that all speak a different language. For instance, a Frenchman, if all he speaks is French, if he comes up to someone who speaks Russian, they're not really going to be able to communicate very well because they don't know each other's language, which makes it harder for them to be able to communicate. Or take the example of the early explorers and the Native Americans. You know, a Frenchman might come up to a Native American and knowing that this Native American is using Dragon Naturally Speaking, the translator from French to Native American dialects. Of course, he knows this Indian speaks French, so he's just going to say, "Parlez-vous français?" If he's lucky, he'll just get a blank stare. If not, he'll be hightailing it back to the boat with arrows flying over this shoulder and that. So when you're not speaking the appropriate support language, it kind of makes support anywhere from troublesome to impossible. I want to talk about the example of arrival as it pertains to learning language with each other. With arrival, aliens come from outer space, and they speak in circles. So, you know, we as humans, we saw this circle pattern, and what's that? But within the circle pattern, they realized there were inner circles, and those inner circles spoke to phrases and sentences and paragraphs. It was only after they figured out how these circles spoke to them were they able to be able to communicate with the aliens. So by learning to speak the languages, learning to speak the different languages of support increases the possibility of success, similar to arrival, where they learned the aliens' language and eventually they were able to communicate with them. First, I wanted to offer up the ideas of the vowels of support. And these are 5 ideas that form a pretty good foundation on supporting individuals. First of all, there's affirm. Affirm is helping someone be okay with who and where they are. It also helps with being okay with, helping them be okay with their reaction. If they're angry, it's not an opportunity to put them down. It's an opportunity to recognize that there's something going on in their life. And finally, it's an opportunity to realize, to help them realize that no, they're not really broken, that they'll be okay. Next, we go to E, in emotionally present. Emotional presence just means you're there for them. And it's even better if it's not a split concentration. If you're emotionally supporting someone, it's not good to, oh, got a text. Oh, wait, I got to take this phone call. That's not emotionally present. And so emotionally present is being able to give your energy to them in that moment. And then there's inquire. Inquire is asking questions to help them to get a deeper understanding of where they are in their journey. You could ask clarifying questions, to help them clarify. There's a question to you that doesn't quite make sense, and maybe a clarifying question would not only help you, but it would help them. And then there's open-minded. I think open-mindedness is really important. We all come with a preconceived set of notions, and if we only stick to those notions, then we only are experiencing part of the world. And it's only when we're open-minded and open to whatever comes our way that we can support well. And finally, understand. Understand similar as inquire, except understand is about this. It's about this supporter. These are questions to hopefully to ask the person you're supporting. Hey, I need to ask these questions so I can have a better understanding of where you're at. This whole process helps to put and keep the focus on the person, keep and put the person that you're supporting. So here we come to our first practice. So, I forgot to talk about, what we want to do is pair up. Because the practice is going to be back and forth with 2 people. So let's pair up. Gal, you want to go pair up with Carolyn?
You get Joe. Oh my God. This isn't starting out.
Really? Can I move? I hear my phone ringing.
So the first practice question is share a need or difficulty from today. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. It could be that it got frustrated in traffic, or there's this crazy guy up front who's making me do these exercises. But share some sort of need or difficulty from today. So, and then the other person, that gives the other person some opportunities to practice some of the vowels of support. And then once you've done it one way, then turn it around and do it the other way. So with that, let's get started with the practice.
Trying to figure out how to get my chores done outside without getting sick, because the smoke really affects my lungs, because I've asked about the same problem. Tuesdays are really yeah, it is. Couldn't do anything. It is, and I sort of feel guilty about not going out there to like work in the yard and stuff, but it's just too hard on my body. It was okay. Yeah, they did try to rest and that rest. No problem. I know where Oh, wow. So you wanted to get, what I'm hearing is you wanted to get some air going, but air conditioning didn't work. So you just kind of did, oh, I understand from my experience with my family. So did rolling down the windows help you cool? Oh, then that's good. So, yeah, I can understand that. So hopefully tomorrow will be a better day. Yeah.
So if we can bring this portion to a close.
Yeah.
Did everyone mostly have the opportunity to feel emotionally present in the process? And was anyone able to affirm what the person was going through? Good, good. And were you able to understand what the other person was experiencing? And were you open-minded too? Cool. It shows the value. It shows you the values of the values and the values of support. So I wanted to ask a question at this time. What are some forms and actions of support that you've experienced in your life?
When? Tonight?
No, anytime in your life, not just today. Yeah.
A friend helped me out when my son was in the hospital.
Cool.
I know I brought this up too. When I was in crisis and called up somebody and said, help take me to the hospital, and they jumped in the car and came and took me. That was really important.
Cool.
I have a friend who came to my condo and decorated it with flamingos everywhere, and it was spectacular. I just gotten out of the hospital, so that was a massive sign of support.
Chloe, I saw your hand go up.
Yes, my best friend helped me after I was having a horrible crisis, terrible, and I really did not want to go home to see my family, which could have been really. I mean, I was petrified when she actually talked to my mom and made it so it was pleasant and really meant the world to me. So, yeah.
Cool. I'm going to throw in one myself, and that's there's been a number of people in my life who have let me emotionally be where I am. They haven't tried to talk me out of where I am, and that's important. Because with that, then I feel if my emotions, if someone talks me out of my emotions, then I feel invalidated. And so that causes even further problems, because if I feel invalidated, then I start to doubt myself, and the chain continues. Joe?
I had a real positive experience when Janie was in her depression and was unable to communicate like she wants to. I had a kind of a intervention type thing happen where I invited a lot of her friends over, and we filled up a calendar where, because I was working full time, I couldn't be home during the day, and they elected, each one was, there were 500 dates to come over and take her to lunch and just be with her for part of the day. So then it gave me belief that somebody was with Janie while I was at the office, and I could go ahead and work in the office. And that was a lot of support. We filled up 3 months in one night.
So that support, it sounds like it was not only for Janie, but it was for you too,
For me, yeah, because I could be on the job,
eliminate
no
your
one could
concern.
do it by herself. It was
Cool.
A lot of support for me, yeah.
That sounds like really great people. Also, I wanted to talk about support as a form of communication. With support, one person expresses a need, and the other person responds. And just like communication, this response may or may not work. But same thing with communication, same thing with support. response may or may not work. So next I wanted to take a look at some languages or categories of support. So these are different languages of support. Similar to French and German and Russian and East Indian. The first support we're going to talk about are solutions, or solution-based support. And that's support in the form of suggestion, ideas, or recommendations. This type of support is most effective when there's a problem to be solved. And then just a quick aside, has anyone ever experienced like support that just seems like out of what's really expected? For instance, I'll throw out a couple of examples. This first one's sort of just made up. Someone's in the bathroom fixing a leaky faucet, and their spouse says, "Well, have you changed the oil in the car?" What does changing the oil in the car have to do about the leaky faucet? Or bring it closer to home as far as support is concerned, there's an expression of an emotion. I'm really feeling sad today. Well, have you called your therapist? Maybe at some point down the line it makes sense to call the therapist, but maybe at the moment it makes more sense just to be with them and to understand more what's going on with them. And I did want to mention that I think there's a difference between expressed and existing needs. For instance, if I have a fractured leg and I don't even know it, then that need is existing. But I'm not even expressing it to myself because I'm not noticing it. And if I'm not noticing it myself, then I'm not able to express that to others. And sometimes there's a need that's existing and it doesn't get expressed. And if that's the case, then that need really can't be fulfilled. Some more about solutions. They have in my mind, they have they carry a higher chance of judgment. Because I'm going to throw out this idea. Why don't you go for a walk? What if I've tried going for a walk for a year and a half and for an hour and a half and it did make a difference? And so like, come on, I tried this. Or perhaps it's sort of like, no, I'm just not feeling well today. And each of those responses are a reaction to the solution that was offered. Keep in mind that must, ought, and should are just another form of solutions. Oftentimes, these can come across as commands. You must talk to the doctor today. That's definitely, it's a form of a solution. If you talk to the doctor, hopefully whatever is going on, can be taken care of. And along the lines also ought and should. Where those words often carry a lot of judgment in my mind in the similar way that solutions can. Solutions are good for building the highways and byways, the stuff that we need in our world, but they're not necessarily good. Good for relationships. And I have the caveat, except when desired, because some people at times they do want solutions. So I wanted to show you some examples of solution-based support. So these are things that, these are lead-ins that you might say to someone that has expressed some problems, or expressed some issues, and these might be some lead-ins to get started. Have you thought about? Consider this. What about? Have you done? Did you read that book or pamphlet? Let's take a look at this from another angle. Have you tried to go for a walk today? Did you talk to your therapist? Would you consider maybe changing your diet? Did you Google it? Whatever problem that's common in today's society, whatever problem we have, first place we go is to Google and see if we can find the solution to the problem. So now it's an opportunity for more practice. So share again, this goes both ways. Share a challenge from your day, and you let your partner practice solution-based support. So does that make sense?
Let's see.
And if you're having difficulties thinking of one, you know, there's always this crazy guy making you do these exercises. So.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, feel free to refer to the screen as some solutions if we can get stuff.
Wow. That must be really hard. You considered it a carrier pigeon? I have to say that. System. Oh, does he? Oh, he does. Okay. Okay. I'm full of solutions. Let's see, have you thought about letting him play this game of music when he does that? Or
Did you try just getting some extra?
his environment really pleasant so that he could do it, or I don't know.
But you tried.
Yeah, I tried. Yeah, okay. So, let me see. What other problem did I have? Well, this is, okay, I made this sheet cake, and, I had one piece after lunch, and then I was thinking while I was watching the news and stuff, I think I knew that you needed another piece of cake. So I went up and ate it, you know. The best thing to do would be not to go and eat that second piece. Yeah, that's my challenge, yeah. Yes, I have thought about that, but I haven't done that. Oh, I did that already. Yeah. I know. Yes. That's about all the suggestions. Carrier pigeons. More of the other. Are you a solution person? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But and this is aside from the question you asked, but I think I'm solution based if I ask for a solution. You know, if I want to say, like today I didn't want solution, I just wanted to eat the other. But that's the only other challenge I can make today. Start panicking, I thought, who cares? And I got copied by everything someplace else. It's like that initial ringing on the phone. But what if somebody doesn't call me? I go home, I got like 4 or 5 messages, oh, whatever.
Yeah, that's something that I was gonna mention.
So that's.
So you're trying to help the daughter convince the daughter not to.
Yeah, she'll come down when she's ready.
But she can't say that herself to her daughter.
She's done.
Yeah.
I can't do anything about it.
Yes.
It's like, now, how bad.
And my
When I started doing that, we were kids, we didn't have cell phones. The daughter had to, and she didn't make or answering machine.
So let's bring it back together.
Yeah, we'll go to the meeting.
Kind of weird, isn't it?
So did anyone find that in this instant that solution-based support was effective for what was going on?
Yes, I need to know if you know where I can get a carrier pigeon. That was one of the suggestions, and I think it's good.
No animals, Joe.
No, carrier pigeon.
You're clean.
It's a mechanical carrier pigeon. So it just exhausts gas. So next, I wanted to take a look at acknowledgments. Acknowledgments are another key form of support. An acknowledgment is support in the form of actions or words that help someone be okay with who and where they are. They're most helpful when there's an expression of an emotion. So if I say that I'm sad, some sort of statement to let me know that, hey, it's okay to be sad. Or if I'm excited for some reason, hey, that's great that you're excited. So it's any statement that helps me be okay with where I am. These carry a potentially lower judgment because unlike solutions, which may or may mesh with someone, an acknowledgement is really set up to be a statement to hopefully feel someone better about, helps someone feel better about themselves. Acknowledgements are also validating. I'll back to feeling sad. If someone says, hey, it's okay to feel sad, then I can accept this sadness and accept this, maybe the sadness doesn't have to be horrible. And the next time I feel this sadness, I'm not fighting it as much. And so that validating can be important. And more importantly, it helps from making things worse. I have this idea of my depression stew, and with my depression stew, all the stuff that contributes to my depression, I throw into it. And a lot of times those solutions end up in my depression stew. But if there's an acknowledgement, maybe I'm looking at this and going, hey, what do you know? It's okay for me to be sad, and then I can set that aside, and then there's one less thing in my depression stew. So let's take a look at some different types of acknowledgement. First one is acknowledge their presence. This is one I think that is the importance of it has gone down over time, but I still think it's very valuable. Things like, it's good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. So now with our next practice, just in some way acknowledge your partner's presence.
I think you have the cutest dimples. How's that? Okay, does that count?
hard to hear gives, offers solutions, but they didn't understand. You know, they, you know.
Which is all DT. Which is awesome. So it's 3 hours, 3 days.
Yeah, yeah, really. Yeah. But, well, that's good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They just want it to be better.
Your sort of like sister program is teaching you emotional regulation.
Oh, like they have to get rock bottom on their own.
How not overly activate.
Really just a strategy. Oh, yeah.
It's like almost language.
Yeah, if they're afraid. Yeah, that's and she, yeah, she's
Yeah, and it works.
oh, yeah.
So let's bring one focus back up for us.
Maybe just say, okay, I'm coming and we're going. So dressed. Yeah.
Does anyone remember my opening?
We're acknowledging each other here.
Good. Does anyone remember my opening? It was hello and welcome. I'm so glad you came tonight. There's 3 acknowledgments right there at the very beginning. I think those are very disarming, because those statements, each one of those statements made you feel a little bit more comfortable about being here tonight, and made for a better evening. And so that's just another example of the power of acknowledge their presence. Next, we come up with acknowledge their journey. Acknowledge their good times. Acknowledge their successes in one way or another. I'm really glad that you made it through. Way to go. Some sort of success. That's one way of acknowledging some good times in their journey. But still, be able to acknowledge their struggles. These struggles are as much as part of their life as their successes. So if you help them through their struggles, they'll be better off for it. I can see why that was so hard. Maybe they were struggling with a new med, and the new med had horrible side effects. You know, just acknowledge the fact that, hey, I can see that there's a struggle and that this is hard to do. Or sometimes to acknowledge the struggle is acknowledge that they've made it through it. You handled that well. So let's take a look at some examples of some acknowledgments. Again, someone has come to you with a feeling, and then these are some potential lead-in answers that you can use to help the person with their feelings and emotions. I see you had a bad day. I bet you wish it was over. That sounds like a challenge. You did a great job. That sounds tough. What an accomplishment. Thank you. These are thank you, and the expression of appreciations are another thing that I think are getting lost in today's society. How many people send out thank yous for gifts? And I can remember my good friend's mom after their birthday was like, no, you can't go out and tell your thank yous to grandma. And it may seem hollow, but at least there's an expression and a thanksgiving for the gift received. That sounds like a struggle. I wish I could have been there. That works for both success or failure. Maybe you wish you could have been there and shared the success that the person had. That's something that you really wish you could have done. Or maybe you wanted to be there to help them through the struggles. So that statement can be used either way. So now we're moving into more practice. Share an emotion from your day, and let your partner practice acknowledgement-based support. So if you like have I doubted what to do. Just take a look at that first. Take a look at that chart, and those are the ways that you can respond to the emotion that you hear.
I won't get into politics. But when you get in, no, I watched the news, and I was heartening. I said, I don't know, she followed the news, and I was heartening with the news. That there was guilty things, please, and so
Yeah.
that was heartening to me to see
I worked here at the hospital, so it was serious.
It was so hard, with so much dissent, being able to report these things, so that made me happy.
I want to be important, yes, very, very much so. 7 weeks of paid training. And then they do
Well,
allow 4 days.
I mean, I was,
So, which is why I really want to be that Friday off. And Dr.
yeah,
Seuss.
it's kind of, but I was working, I don't know which so much, but anyway, the fact that there
It's all their silent, right?
isn't just going on and on, I mean, it's still gonna go on and on, but that there was some relief.
I actually lived, never Fairfax. Have you ever heard of Fairfax? Oh, yeah, watch the cover there about it. It's a behavioral health hospital. So people who are suicidal,
Yeah.
it's more mentally ill. And it's right down the road. Literally, you could fight yeah. But it's easier to have from like
Well, I don't know if counties.
yeah, they have this program.
So let's bring the focus back up front.
I just felt better.
No, I don't have any carrier pigeons.
Yeah.
Another form of support is comparative measures. These are measures to point out a weakness or a strength. These are most effective when there's to highlight a difference. But they can also be misconstrued in either way. And let's take a look at some comparative measures and how they can be misconstrued. Sally, you're doing so much better than before. I've experienced this myself. I had a friend who was in a horrible depression. She ended up going in for ECT. The ECT didn't take all the way, but I noticed some improvement. And yet she didn't notice it. So she was feeling bad about herself because she couldn't notice this improvement that was going on. Joey does so much better than you in school. So there's a comparison going on between probably one sibling and the next. So maybe Joey isn't doing well in school, but maybe he has other gifts that are being overlooked in this process. Why can't you do better? Why can't you just get better? I've heard that before. Just get over it. And these are all comparative measures. Just get over it. It's just you're here and compare it to where you want to be, and just be there. Next is the contrapositive or the devil's advocate, and with that, there's a direct challenge to a thought or an emotion. This can be effective when someone's thought process seems a little bit out of whack. Some examples of devil's advocate. Someone's claiming something's open. Someone's claiming something's open, and obviously it's closed. But it's not open, it's closed. This one's happened to me in therapy too many times. I had this one therapist who would every once in a while tell me that I wasn't feeling the emotion that I was expressing. I'm feeling sad. No, you're not sad. excuse me, but I know a little bit about my emotions, and yes, I'm feeling sad. But in that moment, now I'm beginning to doubt the fact that maybe I'm not feeling sad. And if that happens in the moment, the next time, I'll be less willing to experience that emotion. One thing about contrapositive, this can easily go wrong. If someone's set in their ways, then it doesn't matter that logically the door is open. They know it's closed. And I'm swiping the wrong way. And I also ask you to use this with caution. I think this is oftentimes used with psychosis. That no, there aren't blue fish on the ceiling. But if the person thinks there's blue fish on the ceiling, maybe it's important just to let them to think that. If it's not getting in the way of their well-being, maybe that's okay. Next is could statements. Could statements are support that use the word could, and those can be effective as a form of encouragement. But again, they can also be easily misconstrued as a solution. Some examples: you could call your doctor. Is that an encouragement to call the doctor, or is that the fact that or is that a solution, the fact that, no, I wanted to call the doctor the last 3 months and I just haven't been able to call the doctor, and now you're pushing me to call the doctor, and now I'm further away from that well-being that I want to have. You could feel better if you went for a walk. Yep, you could. But again, I walked for a year for an hour and a half, and I could feel better, but I didn't. Next up is accountability. Accountability is support in the form of helping someone stay on track. In my mind, accountability is very important that it comes from the person desiring the accountability. And oops, I keep swiping the wrong way. And there's a much higher chance of judgment if it happens the other way. You're going to be accountable to me. Myself, I have a story that answers directly to both of these. I had a friend come up to me after one of my meetings and go, "Hey, you want to be accountable to me? I like this person, and they had never given me any reason to distrust them or doubt them. So yeah, I'll be accountable to you." After a couple days of phone calls, I got to the point where, wait a minute, if I don't make this phone call, are they going to are they going to disown me if I don't make this phone call today? But in the moment, I realized that just by turning it around, by saying, okay, I am now accountable to you as opposed to you setting up the accountability, that turned it around, and that got me by that judgment struggle that I was facing. Next up is silence. Silence is simply support by not replying to the request. This is effective when the support request seems outrageous, when it's out of anger or uses absolutes such as always or never. You've never loved me. That's probably a blatant lie. And you could try it one way. You could handle that as just sort of defend yourself. The other one is just let it fall on the ground. Okay, you know that to be false, and I don't have to tell you that's the case. But keep in mind, if the outrageous statement deals with someone's the potential loss of life, that this is something to be taken very seriously. And if the situation gets out of control, it's something that's beyond your capabilities. don't be afraid to reach out for help, whether that's a doctor or a therapist or some sort of crisis line or 911, because they'll be able to better get the help that the person needs. Next up is criticism. And yes, I believe criticism to be a support, as you'll see in just a couple minutes. Criticism is a support by strongly offering encouragement, sometimes often biting or forceful. So there's been plenty of times, and it's most effective when it's issued thoughtfully and in a healthy environment. There's been plenty of times where I've been at work and I've been working on this problem for just too long, and my boss comes by and simply goes, "Have you looked at it from this angle?" That's definitely healthy, and it's it's definitely thoughtful. He could have said, "You bonehead, look at it from this direction. Everything will be a lot more clear." So that's the biting aspect. But often, criticism is used as a means of intimidation or belittlement. For instance, I heard this story recently about this boy in Little League. He had come to a new town, and he was the best player in town. He was just much better than all the other players. He wrapped a single down the third base line and he stood on first base. The person behind him hit a home run. On the way back, the first person got pulled aside by his father and said, "I can't believe how slow you ran to first base. Even Joe would have run faster than you." See, there's that belittlement and intimidation, and also definitely that form of support was definitely not thoughtful or healthy. So for the rest of the talk, we're going to concentrate on the primary support languages, and I call those solutions and acknowledgments. I wanted to quickly run through successes and failures. Success basically means through the support process, you feel like that you've advanced, that you're better off. And a neutral is simply not quite sure if you're better off or worse off. And it's a failure when the support leaves you feeling worse off than what you were before. Support can be successfully done. And how are some ways that we can improve the support? First of all, we've talked a little bit about support as a language. So if you speak the same language, you're more likely to be successful. So if someone's expressing an emotion, then answer with an acknowledgement. If someone's expressing a problem, then answer with a solution. Also, it's helpful to learn the other person's support language. Which I think I deal with this a little later. So when an emotion is answered with an acknowledgement, then there's an increased chance of success. And when the problem is answered with a solution, the chance of success also increases.
Would that be like, so I can tell you're angry about this?
Yeah. So we have been talking about solutions, and those are basically, someone's trying to solve something, and where you're just expressing an emotion. Or the other way, if someone's looking for a solution, if someone offers up a problem, then it's not effective to say, just acknowledge that the fact that they're having the problem, because that's not going to get them any closer to their solution. So now it's time to practice, and I forgot that I have sheets, so let me get out the sheets. So So have the first person share an emotion, and then the supporter answer using an acknowledgement. And these are basically cheat sheets dealing with the solutions and acknowledgements.
Wait a minute, let me put my cheat sheet. Yeah, there you go.
Wait a minute, honey, it's not hard yet.
No? You guys want another?
You need one here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So now we get back to the oh no. Almost there. So, and in this exercise, person one shares an emotion, and then shares an emotion or an emotional event, and then the supporter answers with an acknowledgement.
Very good acknowledgement. Maybe you're dehydrated. I mean, I get dehydrated. I feel like that when I'm dehydrated. Okay, thank you. Oh, I did. Did I? Yeah, that was a no. And then I said, what did I say? Oh, did you consider drinking? Oh, I talked to my cousin on Monday, she's 100 years old. And it just makes me so sad that she has a bad memory and that doctors really
So let's move on to the next practice. With the next practice, the first person shares a problem, and the so the first person presents a problem and don't believe the screen. You answer with a solution because these are successful supports.
Yeah, solution based.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm listening. Yes. What works for me is to alleviate guilt, and with the weather forecasts, it's like you can't help it, it's not raining. So what I do is I just go out there and give it a good water, and then I just let it go for a while. So we're not that.
So we bring the focus back across. So, successful support seems pretty easy, huh? If only, because everyone, when it comes down to it, everyone has a primary form of support, whether that's acknowledgement or whether that's solutions, and that's their preferred. That's oftentimes their preferred method of both receiving and giving support. And so, if it's out of their norm, then similar to if you're just learning French, you're going to fall back to English because you know English and it's something that you're comfortable with. Take Mary and I, for instance. Mary comes from a long line of solutions. She in the family she grew up with, something would happen and she got put into swimming. Something else happened, and she got put into Dale Carnegie classes so she could improve her self-esteem. Something else happened, and she got put into cheer squad. The thing is, I'm not going to doubt the fact that those could be beneficial, but she never got to experience what was going on with those other things. Myself, I grew up in a family where I had parents present, but not really. And so, to this day, I doubt my value at times, and I doubt who I am, and I doubt my emotions, and I doubt a bunch of stuff I do. So sometimes we're like the French and Native Americans, and sometimes it can get pretty nasty where musket shots are headed off one way and arrows are firing back the other way. But our chance of success increases if we only learn how to speak each other's language. Next, I want to introduce the idea of cross-support. Cross-support is support that is different than what the person desires. So if they're speaking of emotions, then they really desire an acknowledgement, and they get solutions. Or the other way, if they express a problem, they really want solutions, yet they're getting an acknowledgement. When this happens, this often ends in support failure because I go away not any closer to where I really want to be. So the person wanting emotional support but gets solutions can continue. So this person, if I'm expressing an emotion and I get back a bunch of solutions, I begin to doubt my emotions, begin to doubt my feelings, and wondering, are these really okay? So I end up feeling frustrated. And it goes the other way too, because if someone's presenting problems, they really want solutions. And if they're getting acknowledgments, they're really no closer to their solution. How is this acknowledgement getting me closer to my solution? It's likely not. And so they're going to go away frustrated too. And I found this in the paper just today, and I thought it was appropriate. I have a great idea for you. Keep it to yourself. Your ideas are always insulting, masquerading as helpfulness. You seem cranky. Have you considered riding a bike to work? Ah!
But he acknowledged his emotions and offers.
Right. continue on with the more stuff about, let's do some exercises with cross support. So in this first exercise, the first person shares an emotion, but in return they receive a solution. So in other words, say you might say that I'm feeling sad, and they're going, oh well, have you thought about going for a run? That would be an example of an expression of emotion and an example of solution.
My whole life, I don't have to practice this. I got this one down.
Yeah, give us a solution. Call 911. Yeah, you're more consistent. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I'm glad.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I feel like it's today because, you know, the sun isn't shining bright. It's just kind of like smoggy out there.
Yeah, you just say you're locked out a couple hours.
That's a good solution. But yeah.
So let's move on to the next question, and that's is the support shares a problem, and yet they're giving acknowledgement.
Are getting yellow leaves on them. Get out there, water. It's just yeah. Right. Oh, and then you feel guilty. Yeah, I noticed the guilt. Yeah. So it's your turn. You're supposed to give her problem. And then I give you. Oh gosh.
So we can bring it back up front. First of all, I wanted to ask that I know that these are kind of contrived issues. Did anyone notice what it felt like to get that cross support?
Really too bad.
Did it feel rewarding when you got the cross support?
It will when I get my 2 martinis.
Carry your pigeons and bring them out.
Yeah.
So throughout the evening, have you had an opportunity to discover what your primary type of support is? How many people, their primary type of support is acknowledgement? And for the other people, for how many people think their primary type of support is solutions?
I'm not sure. Both.
She's looking at me like, no, it's not.
So I guess another question I ask, and this is not necessarily one that you have to answer, but just consider, what about your friends and loved ones? Have you discovered tonight to realize what sort of support your friends and loved ones desire?
Isn't it true that like typically the person that gives one type of support to other people, that's the same type of support that they probably want back?
Exactly. That's their primary type of support. So it's the language they know. So if they know French, they're going to speak French.
I found it helpful right up front before they share, ask, are you looking for solutions or just want to listen?
Right, yeah, we'll get that in a second.
Yeah, and last time, when I heard the talk a year ago, I asked my son, we went over, I said, this is what we talked about, and he was the opposite of me, and I wasn't even aware of it, so that was, yeah.
So some of the ways you can eliminate the cross support is to simply listen for the requested support type. Are they talking about emotions? Then they probably want to be acknowledged. Are they talking about problems? Then they're probably looking for solutions. Is this always easy to do? No. Especially if, you know, like I said, if some person is set in their ways and the type of support that they're giving, then it makes it giving and receiving, then it makes it harder for if they stick with that one type, it makes support communication so much more difficult. So imagine if you've spent years learning a new language and learning it fluently. That's not going to happen in 2 days or 2 weeks, 2 months, or even 2 years. And then it's the same way with the language of support. This is not something that you'll learn tonight, but something that you have to continue to practice. And when you're done with that, practice even more. And you know, I know that earlier on in our relationship, Mary and I were pretty good with our primary support types and offering up the appropriate one. And we've kind of slipped back some because we haven't been practicing enough along the ways. But do keep in mind that support desires are neither right nor wrong; they just are. So if someone desires solutions, that doesn't make them broken. And in the same way, if someone desires acknowledgments, that doesn't make them broken. It's just what they desire. One way to get around that cross support is offer up both, and you mentioned that the fact that, so here's an example of offering up both. That sounds difficult. Have you thought about, and that might be good for someone who prefers acknowledgments, because you've led with the acknowledgement and you've disarmed them, and then you're able to talk about the solution. And it also works the other way. Perhaps there's solution-based, so you would switch that around. Have you thought about, because that sounds difficult, you've led with the solution, and so that disarms them in the process. Another thing you can do is ask. If someone's talked about something and you're not quite sure, are they looking for acknowledgement, or are they looking for solutions? Simply ask. So are you looking for solutions, or do you simply want to be acknowledged? Let's take a look at some methods of successful support. One method is, so there's this communication that's going on in the process of support. And one way to improve the chance of success is the person who's being supported is just state up front. Hey, you know, I'm looking to be acknowledged today, or I'm looking for some solutions today. So one of the things that this can do is, this is really helpful, especially when someone's wanting to be acknowledged, because what happens oftentimes in support, especially when there's acknowledgement, there's a desire for acknowledgement, is there's this part of the head that's basically put in charge of listening, and hopefully. And it's inevitable that this part of the brain starts kicking off too, because it's looking for the solutions. It's deciding, okay, I hear what's going on here. I'm just looking for the solutions. If I can just find these solutions, then we can make this all better. But in the process, that's making so much noise that you can no longer hear what's going on in the situation. So if someone knew up front that the person was just seeking to be acknowledged, hopefully they'd be able to turn off the problem-solving part of their brain.
Is it aim of right brain and left brain?
No, not necessarily. Just two parts of the brain.
Oh.
It's just I have right and left, just because that's what I on this. Now the next is, as the process begins, you know, the person seeking support starts in and says, like, well, I'm thinking about, and then the supporter just sort of stops for a moment, go, wait, just so I can support you the best way possible. Are you looking to be acknowledged, or are you looking for solutions? Similar to the last thing that we looked at, this allows for the person who's listening, if there are acknowledgments, this allows for the person who's listening to make that attempt to turn off the noise, to turn off all the solutions that might possibly pop up, and in the process then they can hear better what's going on. We're going to pass on the practice. And then finally, there's the process of the person desiring support has talked about what's going on. The supporter, it isn't clear to the supporter what type of support they want. So there's no foul in that person going, just so I can give you the best support available. Are you looking to be acknowledged, or are you looking for solutions? So this doesn't solve the multitasking problem, but at this point, since up front you don't know what's expected, the brain does have to multitask in order to deal with what's coming, what might be coming forward.
So that could actually help them step back and think for a second about what they're doing.
Exactly, it could. Yeah, if the supporter asks, what type are you looking for? And then the supported go, what am I really looking for? And then in this process, there's still a high chance of success because you've taken the opportunity of stepping forward and going, what type of support do you really want? And so that increases the chance of success. We're going to pass on the practice. We're running a little short on time. So other things you can do are listen for clues. For instance, with solutions, here's some clues that the person is searching for solutions. And you have those sheets. One of the things on the sheets are the clues for the two different things. And then for acknowledgement, these are some clues that you can listen to determine whether or not they're seeking acknowledgements. So to recap, there are two different primary support types, and those are solutions. And solutions are there to help solve a problem. And then there are acknowledgements. And the acknowledgements simply are statements to help someone feel better about who and where they are today. And there's this idea of cross support. With cross support, it just means that that the support received is different than the one that really was desired. And if you can, avoid cross support because that increases the chance of failure with support. And it also is generally ineffective because it leaves the person who's being supported, leaves them wanting even more. And next we talk about successes of support. First one is learn to speak each other's support languages. That's the biggest thing, because if you learn to speak their language, then it offers an opportunity to actually have a better chance of connecting. And use the clue sheet. Use those clues to determine whether or not what sort of desire that there really is. You can also have, as we were just talking about, the supported mention up front. Hey, this is the support type I desire. And then there's also the supporter asking up front, before they get too far into the discussion. Hey, what sort of support type are you seeking? And then finally, after the opening dialogue, just check in and see what sort of support type that the supported is needing. All these things can help to ensure some. All these things can help ensure that a better chance of success. So that's my talk tonight. I just wanted to take a couple minutes and first of all talk about my acknowledgments, because I have good things in my life, and that's the first thing is Mary, because she's walked my life with me for the last 29 years, and I'm better for that. And then for the support of all of my friends, many out there I consider friends, and it's that friendship that really helps to keep me going. And so I want to acknowledge my friends. And then finally, for all of you putting up with my harebrained ideas. So then and also I wanted to thank NAMI InSight for the support that NAMI InSight offers me. And then I want to do, so here are some references. So these slides are available at is.gd at InSight Practice Support Slides.
You guys got that?
Well, the title of the talk is InSight and Support into Getting Support Right. So, yeah. And then for the support hints, it's is.gd at InSight Practice Support Hints. And I obviously couldn't post the video for tonight before the video was actually done. So wait a couple of days and I'll be able to post the video too. And with that, I'm open to some questions. Yeah.
Okay, what happens if you're in a situation and you want to support them, but you don't have any clues for solutions to their problem? If they're seeking solutions and you don't have any, what do you do?
Well, if the person that you're supporting is in the know, you can just ask them. Like, are you wanting acknowledgments, or are you wanting solutions? If it's a situation where you're not, then I would suggest leading with both.
And if they say solutions and you don't have any,
I think
It means
it's best
like,
to be
it means
honest.
like if he doesn't know an answer. Like,
Oh, okay. Is that what you mean?
Like he doesn't know,
Yeah. Oh, okay. I don't know.
In my opinion, I think it's best to be honest and say, I don't have any solutions for you. And that way you're not gonna take anything you say wrong, but they're gonna feel you're right there with them.
Yeah.
And you feel as lost as they are, and you're gonna be even a bigger supporter.
Yeah.
You can join them and say, that's a tough one. I wonder what we
Yeah.
could
Did
do
you
to find
Google
that
it?
out.
Yeah. Did you Google it? Yeah. That's what you can do. For the ultimate solution. Did you Google it?
To me, that's a hard question.
Mhm.
Because you want to be there for them, you acknowledge their feelings and their emotions, the fact that they want acknowledgement, but then they ask you for help and you're going,
But you can't fix it.
But keep in mind, see, I think that sometimes help gets used too loosely, because I believe acknowledgments are a type of help too. And so yeah, they're looking for solutions and I just don't have any. Any other questions? Well, with that, let's call it a night.